Make the round every day.
Was it cancer or was it benign?
No, it wasn't cancer, it was just, she had an accident.
Can you, you have a fax?
I got it. Good evening, everyone. This is a special emergency meeting of the Board of Education for Rialto Unified School District. The meeting is coming at 5:30. At this time, we'll ask Board Member Edgar Montes to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Montes. Again, good evening. We are here tonight because there is a need to show responsibility and leadership. You all know that an 8th grade assignment that had connotations that were not appropriate and were not anticipated were given to the 8th grade English classes. We seriously believe that this meeting is needed to hear you. We all agree that this issue will be addressed. Before we go into closed session, we are going to give you, our audience, those of you who signed a paper to speak, we will allow you 3 minutes to make a presentation. Please be mindful of the time limit because there are a lot of papers and we want you to respect all people who wish to speak. So at this time, our interim superintendent, Mr. Islam, will read off the names of those people who wish to speak. Mr. Islam.
Thank you, President Gilbert. The first person I'd like to speak on this matter, Ravi Cooper from Museum of Tolerance. Mr. Cooper, please.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me. And I want to thank Acting Superintendent Mohammed Islam for inviting me to address you today. 2,000 years ago, a Jewish sage taught the world exists on 3 pillars: justice, truth, and peace. In 2014, in our internet-dominated world, we have been taught a lesson that everything local is global and everything global is local. This is a particular bitter lesson here because the monstrous Nazi Holocaust is the most documented crime in human history, and it is difficult to conceive that there would be such a phenomenon as quote-unquote Holocaust denial. But such is the world, that there are leaders in Iran, neo-Nazis here and in Europe, and even pseudo-intellectuals who insist that the Holocaust never happened, that Anne Frank and the 1.5 million Jewish kids never lived, that her diary is a fraud. That Holocaust denial exists is a slander against every victim of the Nazis, dead and alive. It is an insult to the greatest generations of Americans who went over to Europe to fight and very often die to defeat the Nazi beast. So it is actually appropriate that our children and grandchildren not only learn about the victims of the Holocaust, but the victimizers, not only about the tragedy of slavery, but those who kept that institution alive and gained from it, not only the victims of racism and hate, but the anatomy of bigotry and hatred. To be able to look at and learn about history, a young person needs to develop the skills of critical thinking. I hope, it is safe to say that no one in the Rialto School District still believes that the assignment on Holocaust deniers served to develop critical thinking. Unfortunately, it bestowed legitimacy and created equivalency between hate and history. I am here today on behalf of the Simon Wiesenthal Center and our Museum of Tolerance to acknowledge the role that your acting superintendent, Mohammed Islam, played in stopping the exercise. The Wiesenthal Center thanks him for doing the right thing. I also want to acknowledge and thank Senator Norma Torres for her leadership in dealing with this crisis. So, where do we go from here? The Wiesenthal Center and its Museum of Tolerance expects that all the teachers and related staff associated with this travesty will soon come to our museum to meet with our educational experts and historians. Yes, adults, even teachers, also have an obligation to continue their education. We also invite the entire Rialto School District to make a visit to the Museum of Tolerance, a mandatory part of the annual curriculum for all middle and high school students. Finally, I want to emphasize that this incident had nothing to do with any religion, not Judaism, not Christianity or Islam. And we reject anyone or any group that seeks to inject interfaith relations into this matter. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Rabbi Cooper.
Next speaker, Joe Baca.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President and board members. I'm Congressman Joe Baca, former member of Congress, and I actually have been to Jerusalem with the Anti-Defamation League. And when we read about what happened, and I've actually visited the Museum of Tolerance, we should never allow the insensitivity of such of instructions. And I know that the board is very sensitive and will take the appropriate actions. All of us realize many of the victims, many of the individuals that were enslaved during that period of time. It is part of history. We don't want history ever to be repeated again. For most of us that have faced discrimination in one form or another, we know that this leads to hatred, bullyism in our classroom. And we cannot afford to teach this in our school systems because we should respect one another. If we allow this kind of teaching that goes on, and I know that the board and administrators and others were not aware of what was going on, but maybe this has taught us that we've got to develop policies and procedures, not only here, but across the nation, to make sure that this never happens again, because we shouldn't tolerate this kind of instruction that was taught in terms of the Holocaust. We all realize that it's part of our history, and we must remember history because we don't want history ever to be repeated again. And in memory of those victims, those individuals that were enslaved during that period of time, those family members and others who have faced and are facing this every day of their lives, that they have to remember those that they've lost. I hope that the board takes the appropriate kind of action and knows the kind of sensitivity that it deals with and its impact it has on all of us, whether we're Jewish, whether we're Hispanic, whether we're black, Native American, or Indians. I stand behind you, and I hope that a policy will come out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Baca. Mr. Islam.
Next speaker, Senator Norma Torres, please.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam President and members of the board. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be here with you. I know that the controversy surrounding the Holocaust assignment has made things very difficult for you, for the faculty, for the students, and most of all, for our community in Rialto. The last thing that any parent or student or teacher wants to see when watching the news is their school on television caught up in a whirlwind of controversy around such a sensitive issue. To that end, I understand the controversy surrounding this assignment has triggered a lot of outrage. I want to personally thank Rabbi Abraham Cooper and the Museum of Tolerance for being here to help us move beyond this controversy. Rabbi Cooper has generously offered to help turn this incident around. And I encourage you and I encourage the community, the parents, the teachers, and the students to take this opportunity to do so. I support the rabbi 100% in his leadership that he has provided today. I also want to offer my assistance to help us move beyond this incident and make sure, specifically to make sure that it never happens again. I am proud to represent you and the residents of this community in the legislature. This is a community that is made up of hardworking individuals, people that have a great love for their community and for the people of all that come from all walks of life. Like many, I too was shocked when I heard about the assignment. I think that we all agree now that this project was insensitive to the millions who died in concentration camps. The school district has taken steps to correct the problem, and I applaud you for that. I also encourage the district to issue a formal apology to those who were offended by the insensitive assignment. Hate has no place in Rialto. Hate has no place in our classrooms. And we must move forward and show the world that this community stands against that hatred. I also would like to offer some suggestions on how the school district can move forward. First, the district should take steps to make sure that something like this never happens again. I feel it is appropriate to evaluate whether there is sufficient amount of sensitive training for staff and personnel who are responsible for creating assignments. I also think that it is important for the board to take action to issue the formal apology to anyone who was offended by the nature of this assignment. And finally, I trust that the district will work closely with the police and investigators to make sure that justice is served to those who issue death threats to the members of this board and your staff. We as a community need to work together to move beyond this controversy. I am glad to have joined you today, and I am glad to also be here with a former member of the Youth Advisory Committee who also wants to offer her assistance to you in moving forward with this controversy. Thank you for listening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Senator Torres. Mr. Islam.
Next speaker, Adriele Ferrara.
Good evening, President Gilbert, School Board. My name is Adriele Ferrer. I am currently a first year at our local University of California, Riverside, a local of also the 32nd District. I have been working under the mentorship of Norma Torres for what is now 3 years. I understand that tonight we come together to bring light to the attention our district has received. My brother is a 6th grader and my sister is an 8th grader, so this all comes very close to home for me. The genocide that we call the Holocaust has been ever so prominent as a part of my education. So I can only hope that young students today can continue to be educated and embrace this tolerance. Just today, we talked about prejudice in my history class. Just last trimester, I took a class specifically modeled for and named Violence of the Holocaust. And just 1 year ago, I had the privilege of meeting a local friend and a Holocaust survivor, Gabrielle Silton. And this is an experience that I will never forget. As a little girl, she was a victim of labor camps. She left all of her belongings behind, and fortunately, the only thing that remained from her childhood is this picture of a bear that I bring with me today. She lost her parents and she lost her family due to this terrible tragedy that we call the Holocaust. But fortunately, the only thing that she does have to remember her parents by are their identification cards that she still keeps today. And most importantly of all, even though she may have left everything behind to come to a country with hope, she has written accounts in her books that tell the very real history that did occur. These are just very few small yet grand details that I have learned through exposing myself to the Holocaust. Through supplementary programs and training, I am positive that the Rialto School District can find this point of controversy not in a negative light, but instead the birth of a growth as well. So in closing, I would like to offer whatever services I can as a mentor, as a speaker to the local students of the Rialto Unified School District, and leave you with a CD which offers some very valuable footage of a one-on-one interview between myself and the Holocaust survivor, Gabrielle Silton. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you. Did I understand you to say you were a product of the Rialto School District? Did you graduate from our schools?
I did not graduate from the Rialto Unified School District, but I did communicate and participate in a lot of community service events here because I am from Chino Unified School District.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Isler.
Next, Neil Fialbo. I hope I spelled right. Okay, sorry.
Good evening, Madam President, and all members of the board. My name is Neil Fialco, and I'm a concerned citizen. The problem that I have, and the reason why I came to this evening, is because the school assignment may not be a gross failure in judgment, but rather an agenda of hate, masquerading under the guise of teaching students lessons in critical thinking. Let me explain. There are there's the obvious and the insidious. The obvious is you've taken a historical fact and allowed debate to be provided when there should be no debate. By doing that, it gives people who are anti-Semitic, people that are hateful, an opportunity, a stage to present something. That's obvious. People have talked about that. But you know what they haven't talked about is the assignment itself and the attachments that were attached to the assignment. I've been provided an 18-page document, the assignment, and I'd like to read a portion of it. You will read and discuss multiple credible articles on this issue and write an argumentative essay. The key word here is credible articles. And what is the credible article that was attached? On the internet is the Holocaust a hoax. And it becomes part of this, and it's a 6-page document. This is actually a 53-page document, but it is a document of hate. It is on a website called BibleBelievers.org. And it also has, on that very website, one of the worst travesties in the history of the world, the conspiracy called the Protocol of the Elders. And it discusses on that website the world conquest through world Jewish government. It is the most anti-Semitic website. And yet, when I look at this 18-page document, it has the imprimatur of Rialto School District on that very article. What kind of message does that send? But more importantly than that, what kind of an agenda are we discussing? Is this just something that happened, or do we really have people in the school system that are pushing an agenda on students that are coming to a school district to learn. They are coming to be educated. And instead, fanaticism and hatred. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is about hate. This is about hate speech. And while we live in a country, thank God, that we have the right to have First Amendment rights and we can say anything, it doesn't mean that we should have an agenda of hate. And that is the problem that I have with that we have some serious issues and everybody, the news media, everybody is glossing over it. We need to know whether there was an agenda by people who wrote these things and put them into it. And if you don't go that deep, you are really not attacking the real issue, the undercurrent. And so I asked the school board to do the following. I asked them to take all 2,000 essays, redact the names of the individuals, and make them private to the world. I asked that all the parents have an opportunity to speak to you, that anybody that wants to talk to, reporters, anybody, to the student, to the people that were involved, you allow them. There'd be no blackout. There'd be no threat of litigation, that this issue is too important. This is going to become a world issue. And if you don't do the right thing here, Rialto will not only be considered anti-Semitic, but it will be considered hateful. Because this is not just an issue of anti-Semitism. What would have happened if instead of this exercise, the exercise was one of slavery never existed? Let's have a debate about that. 9/11 never existed. Japanese were never interred
Sir,
during the
please,
World War.
we want you to be mindful of your time. Your time is up.
Yes, it's a passionate thing for everybody.
Yes.
And all I ask is that everybody on the school board do the right thing and make this totally public.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Robbie Singer.
Rabbi Singer.
Rabbi Singer.
Good evening, and I appreciate your holding this meeting. I appreciate your allowing all of us to speak. Of course, I share the outrage at this unfortunate assignment, as I'm sure you all do as well. I don't understand why a fact of history would be in debate for an assignment about critical thinking rather than an issue that, in fact, would have two sides to the coin. For example, you know, should abortion be legal, or is it okay to carry concealed weapons, or something where there really are two sides to an issue, as opposed to the Holocaust, which is a fact of history. And I appreciate the assistance that Rabbi Cooper has offered. I'm hoping also that the students who've already been given the assignment and these so-called credible articles will also be educated about the fact that the Holocaust denial is not a credible bit of information, that they will be taken to the Museum of Tolerance, that they will be exposed to some information about what really happened. And so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, Russell Silva.
Good evening, board members, administration, viewing audience. My name is Russell Silva, and I'm a Rialto resident. Again, we find ourselves in the throes of another controversial issue, the Holocaust. I understand the Common Core concepts of critical thinking and that the teaching staff was trying to apply those concepts to the students who were studying the Diary of Anne Frank. But couldn't they have found something a little less sensitive? There are still people alive today in this world that have not only gone through it, but have witnessed the atrocities of this Holocaust. I firmly believe in the statements that Mr. Martinez said, that the most important responsibilities of educators is to develop critical thinking, teaching how to come to your own conclusion based on facts, testing your positions, and defending those arguments. I'm 100% behind that. But we need to do it with sensitivity and compassion. These are, I'm not saying that the teachers don't have sensitivity and compassion. I know many of them. I'm friends with them. I've witnessed those actions. They do have those characters. But these are only 12 and 13-year-old students. Children who are having their eyes and minds just beginning to open up to the real issues of this world. An assignment such as this will only create a cynical or possibly even intolerant thinking. This assignment would be much better suited, if at all, for college-level minded students, not 8th graders. And Mr. Martinez, you also mentioned that the Middle East, Israeli, and Palestine, the Holocaust were also in the news recently, and they were. But the Holocaust was brought up by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who referenced it, exploited it, and in fact used it to compare to the civil uprising in the Ukraine simply to afford his efforts in public opinion in his favor in order to annex Crimea. That was done wrong, and I don't agree with that at all either. We all need to remember the past, regardless of how dark it is, because we don't want it to repeat again. I applaud this board, I applaud the superintendent for taking immediate action to right this wrong. American philosopher Alan Bloom said, education is the movement from darkness to light. The Holocaust was a dark part of our world history. I'm sure that our staff can find some lighter subjects that can be challenging enough for our students' minds to think about and develop their critical thinking.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Thank you.
Next, Tracy Gaps.
Hello. I woke up, like everyone else, on May 5th to this headline, and I couldn't go on with my day. I got a crushing headache, and I just couldn't even believe that this could happen in the city that I attend church in. I want to talk about three things: accountability, damage control, and the Common Core component to this assignment. Accountability. To deny the Holocaust is inconceivable. Some person or team crafted this assignment, and we, as a community, demand to know the specific names of the people involved, and they need to be reprimanded. This asinine assignment was either unconscionable idiocy or insidiously evil. Either option is incomprehensible, and it must be dealt with. This isn't Rialto's first time to the rodeo, unfortunately. You cannot reason with cancer. You have to eradicate it and move on if you want to thrive. So while I'm hearing some placating words about, this is never going to happen again, the fact is it did happen, and we need to get to the bottom, the root of why it happened, and eradicate that. To quote the editorial board, and I agree with them, Rialto must be rebuilt from top to bottom in order to survive. Damage control. 2,000 eighth graders, many of which attend my church, had a seed of doubt planted in their mind. These poisonous seeds cannot be allowed to take root. The children affected must receive deprogramming, almost like if your computer had a virus, okay? No matter the cost, we must ensure that our kids are made whole. This is very serious. There's a reason there's so many people here. And by the way, I realize this is an emergency meeting. We need to have another meeting in the future to guarantee that everybody gets a chance to weigh in on this, because there's a lot more people, I'm sure. Lastly, the Common Core component of this assignment. Parents need to do their due diligence. If this is what Common Core brings, we need to find out more about it. There's a documentary on the YouTube called Building the Machine. I encourage you to watch it. Parents, there's an opt-out form you can utilize. And there's also a group, California Against Common Core, on Facebook that you can join, and so you can educate yourself about Common Core. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Islam.
That's all.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will have a motion to move into closed session. May I have a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we will move to closed session. As provided by law, the following are the items for discussion and consideration at the closed session of the board meeting. Number 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of subdivision D, section 54956.9, which is one case. Number 2, threat to public services and facilities. I think that's it. At this time, could I get a vote to move into closed session?
Aye.
Oh, aye.
Aye.
It has been moved and second that we will move into closed session at 6 p.m. Thank you. The board will reconvene at 7:17. There is no reportable action to report on. There's no reportable action to report on. However, I will read a statement, and this is a joint statement from the board. And after I complete this statement, it will be available on our website by 4 o'clock tomorrow. So if anyone is interested in getting the actual copy, it will be printed on our website by 4 p.m. tomorrow. The Rialto Unified School District, the Board of Education joint statement. The board and staff are deeply sorry for the hurt and propagation of misinformation caused by this assignment. There was no intent to be hurtful, but due to lack of critical thought and lack of internal checks and balances, this project commenced and turned into a horribly inappropriate assignment. The current leadership of the district accepts full responsibility for the occurrence of the assignment and accept that the district focus must now be given to fixing this, and also accepts the duty to correct this problem. Ensure the issue is properly addressed and to develop and impose methodologies to prevent anything similar from ever happening again. The district, though, through its elected and staff leadership, will take immediate action to provide training, including but not limited to the following. Interim Superintendent Mohammed Z. Islam will immediately initiate sensitivity training programs of a broad scope so as to avoid similar insensitivity or hurtful activities from reoccurring. This will include, but not be limited to, sending all 8th grade teachers to sensitivity training at the Museum of Tolerance. The district will also be sending 8th grade students on an educational field trip to the Museum of Tolerance to enhance their understanding. While Holocaust-related training must be provided, there must also be enhanced levels of awareness for all students regarding the consequences of what may otherwise seem to be scholastic projects. The board and interim superintendent Mohammed Z. Islam have already begun necessary remedial activities that will be addressed. These issues and should prevent such a horrible mistake from ever happening again. These undertakings will be enhanced and augmented as facts and information are obtained. The board has pledged to work together as a single body with a single voice for the common goal of protecting, teaching, and healing this community. I thank you. And thank you all for coming, voicing your opinion. And at this time, we will move for an adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we will adjourn this emergency meeting at 7:20 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Thank you. The meeting is over.